Welcome to Up the Gut, the Mike Allstott of XFL podcast.
Yes.
We are going to talk to you about the upcoming XFL season that, lucky for us, finally has come around and is going to be this Saturday and Sunday. And with me for the first time and for the rest of time is Matthew Ehlers.
That's me.
Oh, and I'm Patrick.
Yeah, that's Patrick Kimmel, not to be confused with Jimmy.
No, not at all. So we may broach on some NFL topics because the XFL and NFL, although separate entities, are definitely intertwined. Because as we found out yesterday when we were going through stuff, there is a lot of ex NFL players in there. Most of them practice squad guys, but some main player guys too.
Yeah, with that and they're back to back. I mean, we just had the Super Bowl on Sunday, and then we literally had the XFL kicking off 6 days later on the following Saturday.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's nonstop for football lovers. I don't know about you, but I was never able to really delve into any other sport. It was NFL, and that was it. So now I got the XFL, and I'm looking forward to it.
Real quickly, speaking of NFL, God, what a way to end the 100th season. Going into that Super Bowl, I'm not gonna lie, I picked the Niners going into it because I thought that defense was just gonna do to them what they did to everybody else and just make them look so bad. And for 3.5 quarters, it looked like I was right.
Well, I will say, I have been a fan of the NFL for as long as I can remember, and I have had a very good ability to predict. And in week 3 of the NFL season, I actually predicted the Kansas City Chiefs versus the 49ers. And I didn't watch a lot of Niners games, but what I did see was a team that was together, that was excited to play the game. I've never seen any team so in sync. It was like a brotherhood. It wasn't like a team. It was just like a family playing. They were excited, they were pumped, and they just won.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Kansas City was the easy pick. I think me and about 92% of the world picked Kansas City to be in the Super Bowl because Patrick Mahomes in that offense, you can never count him out. And especially with the Patriots being as subpar as they were this year, it was almost a guarantee.
Yeah, I think that 8% that didn't pick the Chiefs was just probably the city of Boston.
Yeah, I would assume so. That seems pretty accurate. So going into the game, I was never actually worried because one thing I did say is Kansas City will win this game, but it's not going to be easy, and it is going to be one hell of a game. And so Kansas City does what Kansas City does. They get down, and I figured it was a Super Bowl, so they're like, hey, let's really make them sweat and wait until there's like 6 minutes left. Went up by 11 and won the game.
Yeah, how crazy is that? Every playoff game this year, they had to come back from at least 10 points down. Every single one.
Well, and what I think it is when you look at my Buffalo Bills, they have a tendency this last year, that if they got up by even 3 points, they went into this kind of conservative prevent mode to like hold that lead no matter what. Let's run the ball. Let's run some clock down. And this could be, 5 minutes into the first quarter. Well, the Chiefs kind of had the opposite. They're like, well, let's start off conservative. Let's not get too crazy. Let's run the ball. Let's set the tempo. And then that's not their game. It's like Al Davis and the Raiders back in the day, just sling it 900 yards in the air and see what happens. Well, that's kind of what Kansas City is. They're not a ground and pound team. They're not up the gut. They're not Mike Allstott. They're just there to sling the ball around to the speedy receivers. They play like I play Madden, just throw it 90 yards downfield.
Yep.
Or like I played Tecmo Bowl back in the day, drop back 15 yards and chuck it 60.
Well, I mean, going in as a Packers fan and watching what the Niners did to us twice, I thought that defense was going to win the day. But yeah, the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes in those last 6 minutes decided we could put up 21 unanswered on this defense. Why not?
Yeah, I mean, it's not unheard of with them. I mean, when you're down by 24 in a playoff game and you win by 20, nothing's impossible.
But I just believe the Niners defense because the Chiefs hadn't played a defense like that. There was no defense really that good in the AFC all year. Statistically, the Patriots, but you look at their schedule and it's pretty soft.
Buffalo defense was pretty solid. They're not necessarily the Niners, but they're solid.
They are very solid, but yeah, again, it wasn't like the Niners defense, no. And then also with the Niners, coming in off of almost a 300-yard rushing day. I thought they were going to try to grind the Chiefs down too, but that didn't seem to work out nearly as well this time.
They broke some pretty big ones, and the problem is they were doing what the game dictated. Not that Jimmy Garoppolo can't be a heck of a quarterback, because he can, but the game dictated that they run the ball and keep it out of Patrick Mahomes' hands, just like the Giants did to the Buffalo way back in the Super Bowl, 89, 90, somewhere in there. Just don't give that offense the ball, and you score when you have to score, and that's what they did up until the end, and then they had to sling it around, and I think it kind of got under Garoppolo's skin there a little bit, and he couldn't make the throws when he had to make the throws there, and that ultimately was their downfall.
All right, so let me ask this. Who do you put the Niners' loss more on? Garoppolo's play or Shanahan's play calling?
I don't really put it on either, to be honest.
No,
it was a good, solid game, and they played the way that they felt they had to play. The defense was solid there for 3.5 quarters. Patrick Mahomes didn't have time to sling it downfield. And Joey Bosa is a beast. I think, it's Nick Bosa. Sorry, there's too many Bosas, just like there's too many Watts.
Yeah.
So Nick Bosa is a beast, and he was all over and pushing everybody around. And
the whole front four is ridiculous.
Yeah, Buckner or whatever. DeForest Buckner. I think that's right.
Yeah, DeForest Buckner, D Ford.
Yeah, just insane. And all it takes, though, is one play. And I think that Richard Sherman he had a rough game, which, at his age, trying to keep up with Tyreek Hill, even someone half his age would have trouble keeping up with Tyreek Hill. So maybe not half his age, because he's really not that old. This is football old. So we're going to go by football age.
Half his age is still in high school.
Yeah. He would have a lot of trouble, but football years, it's like dog years. He's like 72 in football years. So,
yeah.
So really, I think they called a good game. And ultimately, if you really had to pin it on somebody, I would have to go with Garoppolo in those last 6 minutes. He just didn't have the muster. I saw a couple of misreads where he could have hit Kittle. And really that's kind of how the Chiefs usually get in games, is they hit Kelsey. If he would have just started focusing on Kittle's that type of guy in big games and big moments. He elevates his game. And I think he could have been the spark that would have got them through and sealed the game and kept the Chiefs out. So ultimately, I guess Garoppolo would be it, but overall, I mean, you're playing the Kansas City Chiefs, and a magical year for them. They could have several of those, but this one definitely was magical. So,
yeah, mostly because Andy Reid finally got his. It was good to see him finally be happy.
I've never really been a huge Andy Reid guy, mainly because I didn't like Donovan McNabb back in the day. So, not really big, but he definitely deserves it, because the one thing is it's going to come up. Is he a Hall of Fame coach? And prior to this, there would have been doubt, even though there shouldn't have been. Before he won the Super Bowl, he was a Hall of Fame coach, and just it made it a lot easier. Now there's no question. He's going to go in first ballot when he finally retires or dies from too many cheeseburgers. That was probably a little rude to say. I apologize. I shouldn't say that.
Look, we all got to go at some time. Why not go out doing what you love? The man loves eating cheeseburgers.
And Kansas City barbecue. Him and Baron Corbin love Kansas City barbecue.
Who doesn't love Kansas City barbecue?
That's true. So ultimately, it was a good season. Buffalo did all right. Green Bay did all right. And I think that you, especially having followed your social media, took that Green Bay loss really hard. And it was a bad loss. No one's going to deny that. But considering that this is go ahead.
I think for Halloween this year is I'm going to fly to Green Bay and dress up as Raheem Mostert and just run at people. Because it's got to be the scariest thing Green Bay's seen.
Well, they probably won't even see you, and you'll run untouched for 900 yards. But anyway, Green Bay, first year with LaFleur or whatever his name is, and
LaFleur.
I don't know how well him and Aaron Rodgers really meshed, but it was their first year together. They're only going to get better. I think they're going to learn. He's going to learn as a coach that you don't always implement your system. Sometimes you have to, or you should, play to the strengths of your team. And it seemed like what I saw at Green Bay this year was a lot of we're going to try to do my game, these short throws, run the ball. And then they'd get down, and then he's like, never mind, Aaron, do your thing. And then they'd win the game. And that's kind of how it felt to me. So maybe he's going to realize that, maybe keep some of his game in there, but then realize that he has a Hall of Fame quarterback sitting right there, and to kind of play to his strength and let him do what he does. And obviously, you guys should probably get a receiver or two.
Oh, dude, if our first draft pick this year is not either a receiver or another inside linebacker, I'm going to be very upset. I'm going to be so mad. But I like how he likes to keep the offense balanced. I like how he actually tries to use the run game with Aaron Jones back there. That last season, Mike McCarthy had Aaron Jones back there and gave him the ball 10 times a game and wondered why the offense kept stalling out.
Yeah, I get it. But I think Mike McCarthy, who I don't know that he deserved to be relieved of duty there. But, at some point in time, sometimes you, just like with Andy Reid, he was still a good coach. Sometimes you just grow stale after a while, unless you're cheating to win. But we're not going to talk about that.
I mean, I think McCarthy should have at least got to finish that season because we were already out of the playoff contention. So firing him with 5 games to go didn't fix anything that year. That's just whatever.
I'm kind of excited to see what he does with Dallas, except I really don't want Dallas to be good because no one wants Dallas to be good. So we'll see what happens. But he's one of those that I liked, but I don't know why. Because, he had Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers, and of course he's going to have a good team. So how good of a coach was he really? So we'll find out what he does in Dallas.
Well, they got the talent in Dallas, that's for sure. All right, though. One last NFL question before we hop on over to the XFL. Do you think Patrick Mahomes should have been the Super Bowl MVP?
No.
Honestly, I don't either. Nope.
So before I say my pick, who was your pick?
Damian Williams.
Really? See, my pick was Sammy Watkins.
No, if we were going to go just pure receiver, I'd have given it to Tyreek Hill over Sammy Watkins.
See, Sammy Watkins had those catches, those big catches, and like key third downs, key fourth downs. He was the one that kept it chugging, it seemed. Tyreek had a couple big chunk plays, but ultimately Sammy was there the entire game, not just the last 6 minutes. The entire game, he was consistent, and he was there when they needed it.
He was, but I get Damian Williams because not only did he rush for over 100 and a score, but he also had another 29 yards receiving and then a reception. So he found the end zone twice for him.
Yeah.
And he never turned the ball over.
That's true. But
so that was my pick for the MVP.
Well, we at least are on the same page that even though Patrick Mahomes ultimately, I think he was like 296 yards or something, a rushing touchdown, passing touchdown or two. Ultimately, he did a good game, but I just felt like I didn't set mine because even Damian Williams, he got most of those rushes on that one breakout for a touchdown, which was late in the game. It just didn't seem like he was there the entire time, whereas Sammy Watkins, I thought, was more consistent and more key to their win over the entire game. So at least we're on the same page, ultimately.
Yeah. Well, the whole offense mostly wasn't there for 3 whole quarters.
But Sammy Watkins was.
Yeah. But yeah, like you said, I'm just glad we're both on the same page that it should have just immediately gone to the quarterback.
It tends to go that way, which is kind of funny because if you look back at Tom Brady's Super Bowls, it didn't there's a defensive guy one time, a kicker one time. Like he doesn't win Super Bowl MVP very often, does he?
About half the time. Yeah, because Edelman won this last one against the Rams and that debacle.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about that too much because the only reason I'm able to talk football right now is because the Patriots weren't in the Super Bowl. If they had been in it, I couldn't even talk football right now.
I still could. It'd just be kind of more of a bored tone, like, yeah, they did it again.
Well, I guess he has 4 Super Bowl MVP awards, so yeah. I guess 4 out of 6 isn't too bad, but no one likes him.
Dude, just having 4 period isn't bad, let alone 4 out of 6.
So what I have found out in the last 15 minutes is that we can do some amazing NFL talk. So I can't wait to see how amazing our XFL talk is going to be as we merge into the XFL season. I think we should start off by making it transparent as possible, and we should hear who you are rooting for, and if you give a little explanation why you're rooting for them.
I am rooting for the St. Louis Battlehawks because I've just figured it should be time I have a professional team that I root for actually from my home state. Because baseball is not in my home state. Basketball's not in my home state. Football's not in my home state. And hockey's not in my home state.
Goodness, I don't really root for anybody but the Bills. I mean, I root for the Sabres, but just because we're the same owner. But I don't really watch it, so
kind of the same logo.
Yeah, I mean similar. I mean Buffalo Sabres, yeah, and so. But so you excited? I mean, is there any certain players on the Battlehawks you're excited about?
It's not a whole lot of them that I really know. The only name that really jumps out is Marquette King, the coolest punter since Pat McAfee.
And that's saying something, mainly because you really can't get any cooler than Pat McAfee.
He is a super cool dude. He's like a quarterback that just got stuck being a punter.
I've actually watched some of his show. He's got his YouTube channel, and he could have been a quarterback. I think he tried out to be an XFL quarterback, and I believe he might be an XFL broadcaster, if I'm not mistaken.
That'd be fantastic. Oh, if we could get him and Romo in the booth together, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, I think I've had my fair share of Tony Romo, but I mean, he is good. I will never deny that.
I think Tony Romo was better as a commentator than he was a quarterback. Maybe that's just me though.
I didn't dislike Tony Romo as a quarterback as much as everybody else did. I thought he was very talented. I thought he was kind of Brett Favre without having the magic that Brett Favre had. He would sling it, and he just more often than not it went south. So I thought he was good though. I mean, that was in a very rough time for the Bills, and I would have taken Tony Romo over about any quarterback we had.
Well, yeah, I'm not saying Tony Romo wasn't good. He just wasn't clutch. Honestly, that was his big problem.
That's very true. So with the Battlehawks, it looks like you're going to be led at quarterback by Ta'umu Jordan, or Jordan Ta'umu. I don't know exactly how to say that, but there's an apostrophe in there. You got Matt Jones. I think we talked about Matt Jones a little bit. He's a former NFL running back.
Yeah, he has some time in the NFL. Nothing really that jumps out at you though. But I mean, he got to that level, and that could always be helpful in a league and a team like this that might not have that much experience playing at a professional level.
No. I mean, he at least he knows what it's like to play professional football, having played on the Redskins, and then been on the Colts, and then some practice squad time. But ultimately, he's going to be. I mean, we got to admit that being that most of the rosters are practice squad, the talent isn't going to be quite there like it is with the NFL. So some of those guys that even had just a glimmer in the NFL are going to probably shine, just like with the UFL, JP Lossman, who couldn't have been any worse for the Buffalo Bills. For the Las Vegas Locomotives was a powerhouse offense. So any glimmer of talent in a league like this could end up being really big.
Yeah, that's your dude, JP Lossman.
Couldn't stand him. Still don't. There's a reason his last name was Loss Man.
Yep.
So were you not done?
I was just going to say, the one thing I'm looking forward to Battlehawks is how their wide receiver core looks with Az-Zahir Hakim as the receivers coach, because he did do some time in the NFL and actually played for the Rams back when they won their Super Bowl against the Titans when we were all still in high school.
It's been a while, but that's I just saw it, and it looks like you have Brandon Riley on your receiving squad.
Yep.
And so I don't know if you know this, but Brandon Riley was actually a Buffalo Bill.
We're gonna be saying that a lot. in this podcast.
And ultimately, what it falls down to is me being such a fan of the Buffalo Bills. I remember these names mostly from preseason, and he played with us in 2017, and I think he was on the practice squad briefly. He was on the active roster for a while, so I'm actually pretty excited about that one. He was one I like, kind of along the lines of Julian Edelman, Wes Welker.
Just a good slot receiver.
Yeah, 7-11. Who was that guy? He was on Buffalo and on the Patriots. He just got off the Patriots.
Amendola?
No. I'll think of it and we'll get to it. But that guy, if Tuamau or whatever his name was, Taumau, if he can put the ball in places, Brandon Riley will be open. So that's going to be exciting. I'm
Chris
pretty
Hogan.
happy. There you go. Chris Hogan, old 7-11, because he's always open.
Always open.
So I look forward to that, and I think the power rankings that we have seen have the Battlehawks a little low, either 6 or 8.
6 out of 8. But A, it's not last, so I'll take that. And B, maybe they'll impress some people as the season goes along.
Yeah, that's the thing is now, there's low expectations, so it's a lot easier to exceed expectations. And really, in a league where we've seen nothing happen so far and nobody play by these rules, who really knows the power rankings? All they're doing is the same thing we're doing. We're looking at ex-NFL talent. We're looking at ex-NFL talent saying, oh, I know that name. Maybe they'll be okay.
Yep. And then for the squad that you're rooting for,
is not no, not I really did want to root for the St. Louis Battlehawks, even though St. Louis is in Missouri, but I don't really count it. But I wanted to, but then I went through the rosters, and when it comes down to it, there was some key ex-Buffalo Bill names that stuck out to me on the DC Defenders. I am no fan of DC, but I am now a fan of the DC Defenders.
Fun fact, that has nothing to do with football. I almost got in a fight with a homeless man in DC.
Well, I can see how that would happen. I've been to DC once, and I can see how that is possible.
Yeah, I didn't have to do anything. I was just sitting in the Greyhound station, coming back from basic training and my job training for the Army. And as I sat there, this crazy homeless guy just walked up and said he wanted to fight.
Well, the homeless are notoriously not always there, and probably usually pretty angry.
Yeah, and I took that into consideration. That's why I didn't fight him.
You were fresh off training, and as a government weapon, it's probably best that you don't fight him.
Government weapon's a strong word, but I was definitely in a lot better shape than I am now. And I was definitely a lot bigger than that guy.
Yeah. So looking at
the DC Defenders, or as we call the Buffalo Bills B team,
the Buffalo Bills practice team. Well, they're going to be led out by two ex-Buffalo quarterbacks, and Cardale Jones and Tyree Jackson. Neither one that we really got to see anything out of in the professional ranks. A little bit of preseason work. Cardale Jones obviously was an Ohio standout, I believe, and Tyree Jackson was actually out of Buffalo. So both of them are very physical specimens. So I'd expect
Cardale Jones is a big boy at quarterback. 6'5", and 264. Jeez.
Yes, and Tyrese, I think he might even be taller than that, and probably not quite as big. But
Tyree Jackson, 6'7", 250. Those are some big boys.
Yes,
playing quarterback.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. They are very large individuals. So, and they get let's see. No one I really know in the run game off the top of it, but they get a throw to Eli Rogers, who is a former NFL prospect who didn't quite pan out from the Steelers.
Did he happen to also be the Bills at one point?
I don't think so, but it's possible. You know how people bounce around on them practice squads, but it looks like he was just on the Steelers for some 15 to 18. So It just didn't quite pan out. But on the Steelers, they always had a pretty good roster of receivers, so it would be hard to get on there. But we do have Kari Lee at tight end, who is a ex-Bill. Let's see. I think there's a couple in the offensive line, but not anything big, like no name that sticks out. And probably the ultimate reason for me picking this as my team was AJ Tarpley, who yeah, we went over this when we talked yesterday, just kind of running over what we're going to do today. And we'll call
AJ Tarpley, who plays linebacker but is smaller than both your quarterbacks.
Yes. And AJ Tarpley, in our production meeting, we discussed how I remembered him playing and remembered how good he was. And so we looked it up in his first season, a couple interceptions, good start to play as a middle linebacker. But he ended up retiring from the NFL due to concussions, just didn't want to risk it. So I don't know if he's just decided maybe this was going to be a little bit different play, maybe a little safer, or maybe he's just kind of seeing if he can go without getting injured in the XFL and show off his talent and then head up to the NFL. I'd like to see him back in Buffalo because I always enjoyed his play.
Yeah. I think this XFL will be a lot safer than the original XFL. For those of you who might be a little bit younger might not realize this is the second time we've had an XFL.
Yes, and the original one, didn't they allow them to change their name to whatever they wanted, because we had He Hate Me?
Yes, He Hate Me. That's a classic.
So ultimately, I think everybody knows, and what's going to probably be the kind of the original obstacle for the XFL to get over and to be taken seriously is the ownership. It is owned by Vince McMahon of WWE fame.
Yes, which it was the first time as well.
Yes, and so that was the thing, is they kind of went a little too especially with allowing you to change your name, and I think it was a little too gimmicky in the beginning, and now
it was a little too WWE with storylines and sneaking into the cheerleaders' locker rooms, and that part of it was super corny. Not that I hate cheerleaders; I love cheerleaders, but it was a very, very, I guess what's the word today? Cringy. There's a lot of cringe back then. Like, I want to watch football.
Exactly, and that's where I think this XFL is going to get right, because we went over the rules, and there's some rules. I'm not going to say I necessarily fit all of them in and like all of them, but it does have some common sense rule changes, and we'll go over those just real quick now. With the kickoff, it's one of those things with the kickoff. I think I've got to wait to see it until I fully understand it, because there's so many rules there. I think they probably have a ref by himself that just decides where this ball gets placed, because you got to kick it in between the 35 and the goal line. And if you kick it under, there's a penalty. If you kick it over, it's a penalty. If you kick it out at this part, it goes to this line. If you kick it out at the back of the end zone, it goes to this line. So it's going to be interesting. I think it'll be, once I see it and kind of get used to it, it'll probably feel a little bit better.
Yeah, the main thing is that they're trying to encourage more kick returns and less touchbacks, so that they want the kicker to kick it between the 20 and the goal line, so the returner can get a hold of it and actually try to run something back. And
which makes sense, because that unfortunately will give you some big hits, which we like to see, but the players don't like to take. But it also give you some big plays, some Dante Hall style breakouts and some crib breakouts, big runs, and that's what's going to be exciting.
Yeah, and they're encouraging that, because if you do boot it through the end zone or short it in front of the 20, it's considered a major touchback, and they put it all the way to the 35 for the offense.
Yeah, so that is going to be interesting. Like I said, I want to see it before it really.
I lied. If you kick it out of the end zone, it's that touchback for 35. If it falls short of the 20, it gets put on the 45.
Yeah, so that's good. Kick it deep enough, and you know what? That may actually really help, because right now that the NFL is going to purge some of these players. It's bound to happen. This may end up being more of a farm system than it is an XFL, but as long as we get some good games out of it. But this is going to show you where your talented kickers are, because they're not just kicking as hard as they can and it goes where it goes. This is going to be some very accurate kicking.
Yep. Some precision kicking that you have to do.
So then we go to the point after, which is no longer a kick, but you are running an offensive play, and you have a choice of 1, 2, or 3 points, the 2, the 5, or the 10. Which honestly, if you're going to run a play, in my opinion, it feels like why not go for the 10-yard every time, get the 3 points, because it opens up more of the field for you to run your plays. When you're on the 2-yard line, you can try to smash it in, but everybody knows you're going to smash it in, and then all the cornerbacks are already on the line. So if you are smashing it in, they can get up there, or they can cover, and there's less field you have to work with. So that's just kind of how I look at it.
Yeah, but it depends on your offense. If your passing offense is weak, you're going to have to just line up on the 2 and take whatever points you can get.
That's true. But again, maybe it's just one thing. When I see it, it'll make more sense. But
oh, sure.
It is definitely going to give more options, and you're going to have to be, the coaches are going to have to be more tactical on what they do.
Yep.
So then there's, go ahead.
I was just saying, I think it'll be fun because it'll give teams more options, open up more playbooks, and it'll kind of make the defense have to work a little harder to actually stop from getting those points on the board.
Yeah, and it's gonna make for some really dramatic moments, I think, and it also is going to take away some of the, if you miss on a 1 point, well, maybe next time you go for the 2 point to make up for the missing of the 1 point. So you're going to have more options rather than just 1 or 2 points. So this could be better for coaches overall when it comes down to it, when you miss out on some stuff or, miss some points.
Yep. And then the one thing I'm excited for as far as the rules is the double forward pass. Oh, that's going to be fun.
That is what I would say is a very common sense rule. As long as it's done behind the line of scrimmage, I don't know why this isn't allowed in the NFL. So I am definitely looking forward to that, because it's going to open up the playbooks, and this is going to make it exciting, which is what ultimately everybody's after. The NFL, the XFL, the arena leagues, they want excitement because that's what brings people in, which brings in money, and that's what everybody's after in the end is money.
Yes. And even if this does turn into a farm league, it can still be a lot of fun. I just hope it doesn't fold after one season like the AAF did. Rest in peace.
Yeah, I hope it doesn't either. I'd like to see some quality games, and with these rules, it's going to be interesting. I think everybody's going to, it's going to be what hopefully everybody wants, and if it isn't, it'll fold. But I just hope people don't have too much of an NFL hangover to want to enjoy this. But starting it right after the Super Bowl is smart, because people, they're still watching football. So it's in their blood to still check in, and being on the weekend on a Saturday and Sunday, people are off. So maybe you just need to go to your local bar and say, hey, put on the XFL, and then we'll do our part to make it grow.
Yeah. Plus, I think it'll be more fun because it's going to be a much faster paced game. It's a 25-second play clock instead of a 40. Halftime's only 10 minutes, a 10-minute break, and then they're right back out there again.
And then there's the new punt rules, very similar to kickoff as far as major touchbacks, and then also the gunners can't run until the ball's actually snapped, until it's kicked, and snapped until it is kicked. So the double forward pass, the overtime rules are different, 5 rounds.
The overtime was a little weird, yeah.
And again, once we see it, it'll just become second nature to us, I'm sure. I'm just trying to get through these real quick so we can move on to just overall players that are in here. I don't know a whole lot of the coaches. So up-tempo play clocks, only 2 timeouts per half. Replay is no more coaches replays, strictly from a ref who decides. And if he's good, this is going to be wonderful because, you and I watching a football game, we're like, oh, that was clear. And he could just, hey, pause the game real quick. Boom, boom, boom. This is what happened. Reset it.
Pretty much the whole city of New Orleans, right? Well, the past couple of years.
Yeah. Or anybody that's played the Patriots. So it sounds like, and also another big thing that will be fun for you and I and Pat McAfee is the broadcast partners can now access coach to player communication.
Yeah, that'll be awesome to actually finally get to hear what these players are hearing in their helmets.
Yeah, and whether or not we understand it, it's one thing. I do look forward to seeing if maybe this doesn't lead to a little bit of Bountygate, or not Bountygate, but Spygate type of stuff. Because if they hear it, then they could very easily say, oh, this is what they heard. This is what they ran. So now we know if they line up like this is the play they're going to run. That is a worry, obviously, with everybody. But for a viewing pleasure, this is going to be wonderful.
Yep. And also, just to help crank up some offensive production, you only need 1 foot in bounds to finally catch the ball instead of having to have that toe drag swag that the NFL makes you have to have.
You could still toe drag. It's just a little bit easier now. That would have made
So
a
much
lot of
easier.
difference with a lot of plays now. That
A
1
lot
foot.
of plays, yes.
And also the ineligible player downfield now, instead of 1 yard like the NFL, it is 3 yards. That the people can be, so which, like you mentioned to me in the production meeting, is now going to lead to better screens.
Yeah, because I mean, unless you really nail it in practice, you see a lot of screens this year in the NFL that just got blown up immediately because the guys couldn't get out there and get their block set up.
Except for every screen that was run against the Buffalo Bills by the Eagles this year. That one game, we forgot that screen passes exist. So, well, so
crazy?
Go ahead.
I was going to say, what's crazy to me is if you look back over the past few years, the Saints, again, they used to be really good at setting up the screen back when they had like Reggie Bush and Mark Ingram. And I don't know what happened to them, but over the past few years, their screen game has tanked. Like they're the Miami Dolphins of the screen game.
They probably lost a lot of the offensive line. I don't follow their personnel enough to know, though it does seem like they've lost a lot of good players. Think about all the different Saints players that have gone, and they just keep trucking along, which just shows the talent of Drew Brees. That doesn't matter who he has around him; he just keeps trucking.
Well, he does have a top 5 running back and the best wide receiver in football right now.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. But they could go tomorrow, and I believe they'd be, still in the running to win the division, still in the running for everything. It's just how Drew Brees is. Maybe it's Michael Thomas, right? Maybe he wouldn't have been the best receiver in the league. I doubt it because he's talented, but obviously having Drew Brees makes a difference.
And then because we know a lot of these quarterbacks are getting up there in age, Brees, Brady, Rodgers is starting to get up there. The next great quarterback might not come from college for those guys because they get the later draft picks. It could come from the XFL.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these guys, there's not a ton of quarterbacks that I know, but there are definitely names that have popped out to me. Tyree Jackson, I think, is only a couple years in. He very well could get his chance to play, light it up, and he could be in the NFL because he has the size, clearly.
Yeah.
So since we've already run through this, let's just kind of shift through some of the rosters, and we'll start with the Dallas Renegades. Just throw out some names and your thoughts on them, and I'll kind of run it for you. First, we'll say that the Dallas Renegades actually have 2 Josh Allens on their offensive line, probably the same one in 2 separate positions. But if it's 2 separate Josh Allens, I might switch teams.
If it's one Josh Allen playing 2 separate positions, that's pretty impressive.
Well, he's a backup for both left guard and center, so I don't know if they listed it twice, but they haven't done for anything else. But we'll say Dallas Renegades has Landry Jones, which I believe, didn't he play for Pittsburgh? He actually started for Pittsburgh.
I think so. Let me do some of my own crack research.
Crack research is going to go across all my podcasts, which apparently I'm going to start adding them up a little bit. But he was drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers and was there from 2013 to 2017. And he did start whenever Roethlisberger was injured. Looks like he even played a postseason game. No. Yeah, he played two completions.
He didn't start it.
Yeah, it looks like he started 2 games in 15, 2 games in 16, and 1 game in 17. He had 82% completion in 17 off 23 passes. So that was 1 start, but 3 games played. So that was a pretty good run. 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Good completion rate, not good. He's never really had that good a ratio, 3-4, 4-2, 1-1. So ultimately, he's probably pretty average, but like we said earlier, a glimmer of hope in the NFL could be powerhouse offense in the XFL.
Oh, absolutely. It could be a second chance for any one of these guys. I think we're going to see the talent level is probably not going to be as high as the NFL, obviously, but I think the competition could be just as good, if not better, because these guys aren't getting paid nearly as much. and they know that this could be their last chance to get to that NFL level and start making that kind of money again.
Oh, I agree completely. I think these guys, most everybody is going to be on the same level, practice squad guys, brief glimmers in the NFL. So ultimately the play is going to be good, but then you're going to see some people who may not have had the chance to light it up because maybe they were sitting behind, Patrick Mahomes, or they're sitting behind Ben Roethlisberger, or sitting behind Odell Beckham. These guys that maybe didn't get their chance. Well, now they're definitely going to get their chance, and we're going to get to see. There's going to be some people that I guarantee some people go in the NFL next year and start.
Yeah, no, I think these guys are going to play a lot harder. But as far as the coaching staff goes for Dallas, not a whole lot of names really jump out, except for Bobby Blizzard, just because that's a really fun. I like that name.
That stands out because of the name, not because of who he is.
Yeah, not because of who he is. I don't know. I've never heard of any of these guys on their coaching staff, so we'll see what kind of team these guys have come in and put together. But Bobby Blizzard is just a name I'm going to keep an eye on because it's such an awesome name.
Yeah, ultimately, Landry Jones is about the only name I recognize on the Dallas Renegades, which don't let that fool you because power rankings usually have them one or two. So that's going to be pretty exciting. Now, I think we kind of hit up the DC Defenders whenever I did it. So I don't think we really need to.
So we'll go to the other Texas team because, of course, Texas has to have two teams. And we'll hit up the Houston Roughnecks.
Connor Cook was actually a name you threw at me. I didn't remember him.
Yep, Connor Cook. PJ Walker sounds familiar.
Sammy Coates is, I think he was also a Pittsburgh Steelers wide receiver. So, again, like I said before, the Pittsburgh Steelers always had a pretty deep receiver room, so it would be hard to get playing time. It appears that they have 0 tight ends. I don't know if you see that. My paperwork says 0 tight ends.
No, let's double. You got to have at least one.
Well, they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 receivers. So I imagine one of them guys is probably over 6'5" and 250. So they'll probably just switch one of them over. And it also could be just trying to get a lot of this information. And I will just tell you, with running my research on the XFL, their roster on their website, it's not in order. I like to see all the quarterbacks together, all the wide. So I've had to find a different site. So they may have just not listed it properly.
No, you're right. They have no tight ends, and their tallest wide receiver is 6'1".
Wow, how is that?
That's Sammy Coates.
Well, at least he's got a little bit of talent there, so we'll see how that works out. Other than that, I'm not
6'1", 5'9", 6 foot, 5'9", 5'10", 5'10". That is such a small receiving core.
I think I know what their coaching is going to be like. I think it's going to be all speed, slants, short passes. They're going to be trying to break people with speed. They're not trying to power anything. But I did see another name, not to cut you off, but Coney Ealy's on there too.
Ooh, he does sound familiar.
Right defensive end out of Missouri, drafted to Carolina, was hyped to be. I think he was drafted pretty early, and maybe the first 2 or 3 rounds of the NFL draft. He was really hyped up to be pretty good, and as a pass register, and just didn't pan out, which is the same because Missouri guy here. I want to see them succeed, and like we talked about in the production meeting, he was on the Jets. He went there where careers die.
Remember the Jets were good.
Do what?
Do you remember when the Jets were good for those first couple of years when Sanchez was there and they kept going to the AFC Championship game?
Yeah, were they good, or did they have the right? It really would have come down to is that it was a Rex Ryan defense that people just couldn't get, and then Sanchez was good enough to get them over the hump. But yeah, I remember that. I was in Buffalo, so I watched that happen, and he was drafted in the second round, pick 60. So.
Yep, back in 2014. So he's still a young guy, though. I mean, 28. He's in his prime football-wise.
Given that he is, this is his opportunity to get back into the good graces of the NFL and really push it because he's there. He's got his opportunity and he's supposed to be talented. So we'll see what happens.
I'm rooting for him. You got to root for a hometown guy.
Yeah, and I was just looking through nobody I really noticed in the special team. So I have LA, the Los Angeles Wildcats, next on my list. I don't know about you.
Yep. Yeah, they listed the cities in alphabetical order, so that helps. We got something.
Yeah, it appears that's how it is run. I wasn't even paying that much attention, but they got Josh Johnson, who you and I both discussed, and it sounds like he was a Buccaneer and played for a few other teams. He was a quality backup, but never was going to be the guy.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, though, Tampa Bay really hasn't had the guy at quarterback for quite some time.
I mean, their guy now. He's got potential if he can knock down those interceptions because he can sling it. I think he had over 5,000 yards. Jameis Winston, right?
Yeah, Jameis. You know, let's take a quick sidebar from the rosters real quick because I just got to put this out there. And maybe it's just me. I'm not that impressed with passing yards. If you can't find the end zone or if you just keep turning the ball over, passing yards just doesn't mean much to me.
Well, yeah.
Because Matt Stafford's passed for 5,000 yards before, but what has he done?
Yeah, I don't ever understand that because he does play good. He does put up, and one of the things they said about Matt Stafford is would he be able to put up those yards without Megatron, and he did. He still does. He still slings it. And ultimately, what it comes down to is, yeah, you could throw it 99 yards, but if you don't punch it in for the touchdown, what's it matter? So
Yeah.
Obviously, I don't think passing yards are the ultimate decider on whether a quarterback was good or not, but they definitely are a key stat to look at because, I mean, look at, I don't know, JP Lossman. Do you think he had many passing yards?
No.
He did with the Las Vegas Locomotives.
Powerhouse offense.
Yeah. So, but you look at it all. You look at completion percentage. You look at touchdown to interception. You look at the yards, the touchdowns, total touchdowns, and that's going to decide it. But I'm not going to handcuff anybody who maybe just played with a great running offense. If that is what you do, just like with San Francisco against Green Bay, if you got the runners to do it, you don't have to throw it. Why even risk the interceptions? You go with what's working. So sometimes you don't have to throw it. Sometimes you do. So it's not the ultimate decider. But when it comes to quarterback, I look at obviously the key stats, which I said was completion percentage, touchdown to interception ratio, and then wins is also one because it is a team game, but wins ultimately is a big decider too.
Well, see, that's another big thing for me for quarterbacks. If football is such a team sport, like it's good to have a great quarterback, but if all the other spots don't at least do their job adequately, you're just going to waste them. Yeah. So it takes more than the quarterback to win.
I think one of the keys to quarterbacks really, and I wish more people focused in on it, is offensive line because even a bad quarterback given time can make good decisions. So I think that if you had a mediocre quarterback with a great offensive line, you're gonna see results. And I guess my example for that would be Dak Prescott. I don't think he's really that good of a quarterback. I think that he has a great offensive line and gets time. That's actually one of the reasons whenever Buffalo went up to draft a quarterback here a couple of years ago, I looked at Josh Allen. I looked at Sam Darnold. I looked at Josh Rosen and Baker Mayfield. I watched all their college highlights. I watched different games because I knew we were going to draft one of them. So I had to see which one I liked. And I liked Josh Allen. Not that the other ones were bad, but Sam Darnold, Josh Rosen, and Baker Mayfield were doing great things at their colleges with tons and tons of times with good offensive lines. Josh Allen was making plays and getting wins and being a great quarterback. And every time they hiked the ball, there was people on top of him. He had no offensive line. And I said, you know what? If he can do that with no offensive line, if he comes to Buffalo and we get some people in front of him to give him a little bit of time, this guy's going to be great.
Yep.
And it's slowly getting there.
Yeah, no, an offensive line is 1,000% probably the most important part of the offense because if your offensive line sucks, nothing is going to go.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the entire team's important. Great receivers can make bad quarterbacks look good because
Yep.
they got a huge window to throw to. Who couldn't do it? Great running backs can hide a bad. I mean, Barry Sanders hit a bad offensive line in Detroit. Maybe not hit them, but they didn't seem nearly as bad because there's so many rushing yards. So each person, but the key isn't to have one great quarterback or one great receiver or a great offensive line. Is to put it all together. So even if you had a slightly above average quarterback, but a great team, New England, you could do great things.
Oh yeah, that happens all the time. Brad Johnson with Tampa, Joe Flacco with the Ravens,
Trent Dilfer.
Trent Dilfer with the Ravens.
Trent Dilfer. What wasn't he also the Bucks quarterback, or who was the Bucks quarterback?
That is Brad Johnson.
Was it Brad Johnson? Okay.
Yeah.
So ultimately, like I said, it's to piece it all together, not just have one star, but to have a whole bunch. And that's everybody knows that. That's not a surprise to anybody. But I think we both kind of agree the first place to start is the offensive line. And then if you have a new good quarterback, I think the best thing to have if you have a young quarterback is a veteran, extremely talented tight end. If you have a Matt Ryan, you give him a Tony Gonzalez. That's going to help his progression a lot more than, say, an Antonio Brown or an OBJ for Baker Mayfield. If Baker Mayfield had Gronkowski and not OBJ, I think the Browns probably would have had a better season.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, there's steps, I think, to building a team. And I am not a general manager, but maybe this podcast will get me there one day. Buffalo, wink, wink.
It could be. Maybe it'll be maybe one of these XFL managers. Who knows?
Hey, maybe so. Hey, Vince, I also have a wrestling podcast. I can do whatever you need me to do. Just hire me on in.
Oh, you mean Wrestling in Review, your weekly wrestling recap?
Yes. You said it well. So yeah, listen to that whenever we finally get it out, and listen to this whenever we finally get it out. Listen to it all, and if you leave comments, if that's an option, maybe we'll set up an email at some point so we can get some ideas or some request. I don't know. We're just going to do what we do, and not necessarily for money, not necessarily for anybody else enjoying it. I actually do this stuff just because I enjoy it. I enjoy chatting with my friends. I enjoy talking football. I enjoy talking wrestling. I enjoy talking anything under the sun. So I hope everybody enjoys it as much as I do.
Yep. And that's what I like about this XFL is we don't know, like in college and going to the NFL, you have an idea pretty good idea who's going to be a star, who's not. But with this XFL, there's just so many guys that were just all practice squad you never heard of. Who knows who's going to be a star? This is brand new for everybody. It's going to be
maybe one or two names a team that anybody knows.
But again, those guys weren't necessarily stars to begin with either. So those guys can be busts all over again.
It's true. It's very, very true.
But then if we do go back, we got 4 more teams to run. Well, 3 more because we already talked about St. Louis. But,
I was just finishing up. I haven't finished up the Wildcats. I'm just going through real quick because we had Josh Johnson. There's a Will Smith linebacker. Of course, there's like 900 Will Smiths. Oh, yeah. Hey, Tywan Jones. I thought he was a running back. Is there multiple Tywan Jones, or is Tywan Jones the running back, a backup linebacker? Yeah. So maybe there's a Tywan Jones, but there is a Tywan Jones running back. So maybe he's on a different team. They have him listed as linebacker here.
There's a Nico Siragusa who is not related to Tony Siragusa.
So Nick Novak on the kicking, which is I think about the only kicker. Colton Schmidt as a punter. That was actually Buffalo Bills punter a couple years ago. Wink, wink, Buffalo Bills.
So many Buffalo Bills in this league.
And again, there's I told you in the production meeting, there's a whole bunch of every team here. It's just I for some odd reason have like this Rain Man sense when it comes to practice squad members from the Buffalo Bills. These names just stick in my head, so I remember a whole bunch of these guys. Ooh, I just popped up the New York Guardians, and a name popped out, and I think it's where'd he go? We'll get to it, but Matt McGloin was one that you and I discussed. I remember him being better than he was. I don't know exactly how that happened, but he was quarterback for the Raiders very briefly. And so that is one of those things I would watch for him. Personally, I think that he's probably going to be pretty good in this league due to having the ability that he has. But I could be wrong. And then Jake Sutherland was one that popped out, and I was trying to do some crack research, but I'm not getting any results yet. Let me see. Jake stats. You talk while I go through there. Go run through some other players.
Well, we got Joe Horn Jr. The only reason he stood out is because he went to Missouri Western State. So
he had a little bit of time in the NFL too. I don't remember where, but I remember him existing.
Just the Baltimore Ravens practice squad.
Huh. Well, that's weird that I remember that because I am not a Ravens fan. Apparently, Jake Sutherland doesn't exist, but I think there was a Jake Sutherland or something close to that was on the Falcons. Something close to that. So I was wrong.
And Joe Horn Jr. is the son of Joe Horn Sr., who actually did play in the NFL.
Where was he at? Because maybe that's why I remember him. I remember the name.
Joe Horn Sr. played for the Chiefs and the Saints. Just Joe Horn.
Yep. That's what I remember. Okay, so see, I remembered him actually both places. Probably wasn't anything super wonderful, but
here's the funny thing. Joe Horn Jr. was drafted actually by the Houston Roughnecks back in October and has already been traded to the New York Guardians before the season even started.
Well, hey, that is some general manager workings right there. They're building their teams. I mean, this is fresh, so they're having to work with what they got. So making moves already. That's pretty exciting.
Yeah, so he's already been on 2 XFL teams, and they haven't even played one game yet.
He's probably going to bounce onto the Buffalo Bills practice squad here briefly.
Maybe. Just say he did.
And then the punter, of course, is Justin Vogel.
Yep. From Miami, Florida. Not the other Miami, the weird one. Miami, Ohio.
Or Miami, Oklahoma. But he played briefly with the Packers. Obviously, probably didn't do much. But people don't remember punters, but punters are people too.
Punters are people too. That's why I'm glad St. Louis has Marquette King. He's gonna be fun.
I look forward to it, and his little dances that he does. I don't know if you, I didn't remember, but after you told me about him, I went and watched, and every time he punted, and he had some really key punts. Of course, when you watch highlights, you're going to see a lot of that, but he danced a lot.
Oh yeah, he had a leg on him. I'm hoping he didn't get rusty.
Well, we will find out if his punting skills or his dance skills have a little bit of rust on him. We'll find out real quick.
Oh, I promise you, his dance skills are still top notch.
It's good to hear. And speaking of good to hear, there is a dragon in the XFL in the Seattle Dragons.
Yeah, coached by Jim Zorn.
Ooh, there's a name we all know. When he Washington's head coach for a little bit?
Yes, he was.
Awesome. I don't know who Brandon Silvers is. I don't know who BJ Daniels is. So quarterbacks are kind of a mystery to me.
Yeah, Jim Zorn coached the Redskins, the Ravens, the Chiefs. Well, he was the quarterbacks coach for the Chiefs.
Yeah.
The Redskins was his only head coaching job back in 2008 and 2009. Remember what those Redskins did? Me neither. That's why he went to being a quarterback's coach.
I remember him being there, and there was something that was going on when he was there, because I don't watch the Redskins very close, and I know that name well. So there's probably, knowing the Redskins, some sort of conspiracy or something that went down, and he probably got fired. But let's not focus in too much on him, because Seattle Dragons probably have one of my favorite receivers, and Austin Proehl.
Which one's that one?
Austin Proehl. Yep, former Buffalo Bill. Again, one along the lines of Welker, Amendola, and Edelman. Small, fast, just always going to be open. You never seen Buffalo up in so many arms whenever he got cut and put on the practice squad, because people, like, I think there was signatures going around trying to get him put back on the main roster. Like, it was bad. He was extremely loved. So again, here's one I'd like to see him ball out. work on his route running a little bit, and then end up back on our team because he was definitely loved there.
Or just, I mean, that would be cool if at the end of it he does end up actually back in Buffalo. That'd be a pretty good story.
Yes, I think so, and that's, I think we'll get some stories out of here, some 30 for 30s, if you will, with some of these players that maybe fell in hard times. I think there was one of these guys, we might not have got to him, but we had read that had been a promising receiver, I think, and then had some drug issues, and so maybe he's got his life back in and isn't doing the drugs, and maybe he has a shot to get back in the NFL.
That's always sad when you see someone get to that level and then just literally throw it all away because of drugs and stuff. Because, I mean, I've never been famous. I don't know the stress of it, but it's always sad when you see someone have that kind of success and then they just let it all go because they had to get that good in them.
Good. Some of that good.
Good.
That's going to be the first shirt that comes out of the Up the Gut podcast. It's going to say Up the Gut, good. So, and just a little off, it's still on topic, but off of the XFL, I think it's not necessarily the stress of being famous, and some of it would be, some of it obviously there's 900 reasons for 900 different people, but I think a big part of it is a big part of like you or I, when we decide to do something, we have limits because, like, oh, we want to go do this. Well, I've got to pay my phone bill this week. They don't have that, when you have millions of dollars, you don't necessarily have that. You do whatever you want. So then you start finding different avenues to keep your interest, to keep yourself excited. And that's, I think, where the drugs start coming in, because you've done everything you could do normally. So let's branch out a little bit, try something else, which is a horrible idea. But I think that's just my personal theory on why some of that happens.
Yeah. Like you said, it absolutely could be. I mean, I guess when you're a professional athlete, you have a big responsibility because you're in the public eye, but your number of responsibilities is really kind of shrunk down.
Yeah, you do your job. Now, I was glancing through here before we got a little sidetracked with that wonderful life lesson for all you famous people to pay attention to, and I saw a name that might give you a little bit of fits, and Will Sutton.
Oh, Will Sutton.
Right there, sitting on the defense, D tackle for the Seattle Dragons, formerly of the Chicago Bears and Vikings.
Yep.
Which would have given your Green Bay Packers a little bit of a fit back in the day.
A little bit. I mean, he was never a superstar, but anybody who plays for the enemy, you had to just kind of look at him and go,
Yeah, he was enough that I knew his name, and he wasn't on the Buffalo Bills practice squad, so he had to do something.
He was on the active roster for the Bears for the first 3 years of his career. And then he was on the Vikings and 49ers practice squads, and then played for the Arizona Hotshots, and now he's with the Seattle Dragons.
Maybe he didn't do anything good, because I just reading up on him on September 7th, and he posted his first tackle in the season opener against the Buffalo Bills. That son of a gun. So that moves us on to the Randy Orton, the Tampa Bay Vipers.
Yeah, the last Tampa Bay Vipers, which was some super bright green colors for that squad.
That ain't no joke. And this is actually one I'm probably looking forward to the most, not only because they have more quarterbacks than anything else, but they've got Aaron Murray, who was a really good standout coming out of Georgia, I believe. So I don't think he ever really got much of a chance in the NFL, and I look forward to seeing what he does.
And their head coach, Mark Trestman, I remember him too.
Yeah, he was supposed to be an offensive genius, if I remember. Wasn't he in Chicago?
Yeah, he was head coach Chicago for 2 years.
Yeah, he's one of those, I think, that, and this league may prove me wrong, but I think he was probably a better coordinator than maybe he was a head coach, which that's not to hold it against anybody. It was Marv Levy who said that the best head coaches are actually special team coaches, because they already know how to balance offense and defense.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he's had a lot of work as offensive coordinator, quarterbacks coach. Uh, his only head coaching stints were the 2 years for Chicago and 4 years in the Canadian Football League in Montreal.
Hmm.
Oh,
So
and 2 seasons in Toronto. I missed that one.
2 seasons in Toronto. Nobody saw that one.
So 2 years in the NFL, 6 years in the Canadian Football League, and in the Canadian Football League, he won the Grey Cup 3 times, which is like their Sam's Club version of the Super Bowl. 2 times, 2 times CFL Coach of the Year. He crushed it.
Well,
He crushed it in Canada.
That's saying something. I mean, nobody
Yeah.
was watching it, but he did something. And Aaron Murray didn't get a chance in the NFL. He was drafted to the Chiefs and has no stats from starting. So, he was pretty touted coming out. So we'll see what happens with him. Now I'm going to run through some of these other names.
A little. Like, I know I'm rooting for St. Louis, but if St. Louis doesn't do anything, a tiny piece of me is kind of rooting for these guys just because of all the green.
I can understand why you'd say that. I am a little sad that the DC Defenders kind of look like Alabama. Not that Alabama isn't great and they don't have a great team, but I'd rather see America's colors, some blue and red, some Buffalo Bills colors in there.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. It's always good to be like a Patriot, not a New England Patriot, but a Patriot.
And they do have Jalen Collins, which I believe he might have been in the NFL. I'm going to look him up real quick. He was actually drafted by the Falcons, played for the Colts. So another one that had a little bit of a shimmer. Like I said, I think there was another couple Jalen Collins in there, but I think he was touted to be pretty big and coming into the draft. I think this might have been the drug thing. Hold on. You talk about it. I'm going to read up on it.
Well, yeah, this guy was also drafted by one XFL team and already traded to another.
Whoever made that trade, I hope they got something good. He was projected to be a second round. Yep, failed drug test. So let's see. Yep. And he was suspended in 2017. This is the one we were talking about. It wasn't a receiver. It was Jalen Collins. He was touted. He's supposed to be the second best quarterback in his draft class. Corner, in case I'm not enunciating. He was an LSU from, which is cornerback U, home of Trey White. And so he was supposed to be really good and played 2 years and then 2 or 3 years got suspended. And so now he's here. So this is your 30 for 30 comeback right here.
Hopefully. Also, he's born in Kansas City, so he's also a Missouri boy.
Well, there you go. See, we're rooting for him all the way. Him and Jake Schum.
Yep, gotta root for all the Missouri guys because we don't get a lot of good ones out of there. So we gotta try to find as many as we can.
Well, Jake Schum is their punter. I just threw that in there for fun because punters are people too.
That's right.
And he actually went to college at Buffalo, so he wasn't on the Buffalo team, but there's still a Buffalo tie right there. He signed with the Packers in 2017 too. And he was released in 2017.
See, that name does not ring a bell. He came and went.
He was quick. So that kind of runs through the roster. Sorry, I have a problem whenever I'm trying to look at the 3 monitors in front of me and do my crack research while talking. Usually pretty good at it, but sometimes my mouth runs and I don't think about it. That's when you get the ums and ahs and the pauses. Yeah. So I apologize for that. So now I think the only thing left to do is run through the week 1 schedule, make some predictions, and then if you have anything else after that.
Actually, if you click on the teams tab on their website, it'll list all the teams for you if y'all want to go look at it yourselves. But they have this thing called Team 9.
I saw Team 9. I just assume that's for whenever you and I get gifted a team and we start up the Green Bay Buffalo Bill or the Green Bay Buffalo Ailers.
As awesome as it would be to own a team. But no, Team 9 is just an extra squad stocked with players available to fill open roster spots on any team in the league at any time. It's like the reserves.
I didn't even look at that. Good thing you're here with your cracks research. Are there any certain players on Team 9 that I need to know about? Here we go.
I don't see a roster. Oh, there it is, way down the bottom.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go through you. I don't see any names so far. Of course, if they're on this Team 9, they're probably not any known names that we're probably gonna find.
Yeah, no. But like at first, that CJ Collins sounded familiar, but I found I've got nothing on him.
No, it's but it's kind of neat. It's your free agent pool is all Team 9 is. So
Yeah, free agent pool, or if like four of your however many cornerbacks you have get hurt, you can dip in here and grab one or two that you need.
or if you have 0 tight ends.
You have zero tight ends, and all but one of your receivers are under 6 foot.
How did you not look at the first name on the list and be like, "Oh, it's Joe Callahan. He was undrafted the Packers in 2016."
Well, because he was undrafted and didn't do a whole lot.
Man, people don't have to do something for you to understand and remember their names. Come on.
Here's the crazy part, though, on this Team 9 thing. You read across, it says position QB, name Joe Callahan. Then it says position. Oh, never mind. I see what it's doing.
Second row. Yeah.
It's 2 names per line. Because usually it gives you your position name and then like where you went to college. This doesn't do that because that's how much even they know about them.
Hey, you want to go try out for one of these teams?
If I lost like 100 pounds, I'd be down.
Garrett Fugit was a Central Missouri QB. Doesn't look like he did anything. He's from Overland Park, Kansas. So it's just right around the corner.
Let's hope old Garrett there gets his shot as well then.
Well, all that has to happen is one of these guys that is already on a roster doesn't work out. So Team 9, that was some handy information. I didn't realize there was a free agent roster there. And of course, one thing we will see is there's going to be some of these reserve practice squad guys on NFL teams that will go next year. So pay more attention to your practice squad and you may see your future XFL roster.
And the good thing about the XFL, you don't have to worry about trying to stream it on some special app that they had to make or hoping someone will bootleg it onto YouTube. All these games are going to be on network TV, ABC, Fox, and ESPN.
FS1.
So, yeah, that's still Fox.
Yeah, but it's a different channel than Fox. It's same people, but different channel. FS2. I'm just going through. There's FS1 and FS2. So Fox must have had some more important programming going on. They had to switch it.
I didn't know there was an FS2. I learned a thing today.
Yeah, listen to that. So week 1, we got the Seattle Dragons versus my DC Defenders. I can tell you.
That's the kickoff game, yeah.
DC Defenders, that's tomorrow. Tomorrow at 1 p.m. Central, because I live in Central Time. I don't care where you live.
and noon in Mountain Time, because I live in Montana. That is a state.
Yeah, you and like 3 other people, so that's cool. I always hear the same thing from people. Oh, Montana's so beautiful. I love to visit.
That's because no one's here to ruin it.
Oh, that's true. And they got like no speed limits because they don't have enough cops to cover that much road because it's just nothing.
It depends on what part. I mean, we have speed limits here in town where I live, but
I'm sure in town.
I'm sure somewhere out there you get on a highway where there's so many acres of land and only 3 houses. They don't care how fast you go.
And I am not condoning speeding through Montana, but who really is going to know?
I condone it because unless you have a reason to be here, just go. No, this and Wyoming, and it's just that's no knock on people who live there. If you live there, you must love it, or you're stuck for some reason. But because I had to go through Wyoming for 3 hours to get here, I passed a house.
That's rough. It's like driving through Western Kansas. There's no reason.
It's like driving through just like if you ever played the Fallout games where everything is destroyed and gone. It's like that, only without the radiation.
Yeah, there is a lot of places like that now. Now that we have interstates, you have large sections where you just see rundown old gas stations and stops where people would get all their cool little trinkets, and they're all just run down because no one stops anymore because we don't have to because we get 30 miles to the gallon.
Yeah, but no, yeah. If you love hunting or hiking or meth, by all means, come up here. But if those aren't your top 3 if those aren't your top 3 things to do, this ain't the place.
So at 1:00 p.m. Saturday, February 8th, and 12 o'clock Mountain Time, we will see the Seattle Dragons, which I love that they made this the Seattle Dragons, because when it's abbreviated, it's the Sea Dragons.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes me laugh.
Oh, the Sea Dragons.
So the Sea Dragons taking on my Defenders. This one is going to be pretty open and shut. The Defenders are going to dominate. This is going to be a statement win. First game in, they are going to teach the league what's up. Cardell Jones is going to go over 300, probably another 60 yards rushing, probably 4 overall touchdowns.
That is such a bold claim for 2 squads that we know literally nothing about.
And AJ Tarpley will have 1 sack and 1 interception at least.
Wow. I will
You
say
better
this.
go. You better go bold on yours.
If we come back next week and these things come to pass, forget the podcast. You need to be on TV talking about these guys.
I actually said that whenever I predicted this NFL season. And the big thing I have to go by is obviously my Super Bowl prediction, which came to fruition. But also, you remember how everybody was down with Cleveland whenever this season started? They were going to win the AFC North. They were going to be the team to beat. You remember that?
I do. But I often think it's more about hope than anything.
Well, no, it's because they did come off a pretty... the expectations were there because of what they did the previous season. There was a reason everybody was talking about it. And I sat there and I said, listen, this is the Cleveland Browns. Maybe one day they'll get there, but that's not today. It is not this season. They are going to flounder. They are going to be bad. So watch out. Don't put your money there. And there was some other stuff I said along the way. I said that the Patriots were they're going to get bounced first round of the playoffs. Yeah, and I said that like week 3 because they just, when I watched them play in the beginning, they were winning, but they were winning against the worst teams in the NFL this year, and they were winning handedly. But as soon as I said, watch, they're going to get a quality team and they're going to lose. And that was unfortunately Baltimore, who I also said was going to lose early because it was not hard to figure out how to beat Baltimore, because all you do, you box in the quarterback, make him throw, and he was going to lose. So they live off the run. So anyway, there was a whole lot of stuff in there, and I got a buddy who called me, Chiefs fan, the day of the Super Bowl. He said, "Hey, who you got?" I said, "I got the Chiefs." He goes, "Good. You've been right about everything this year, so I have faith in this now. I'm not as worried."
Yeah, maybe, but the Chiefs were a safe pick. Again, if it wasn't for Dee Ford, the Chiefs would have been there last year too.
Yeah, and there's a good chance they'll be there next year. I think Buffalo may have something to say about it, but we'll get to that whenever we switch over to the NFL side of this podcast. But we don't want to forget about the late game on Saturday with the LA Wildcats and the Houston Roughnecks.
And just so you guys know, the early game is on ABC and the later game is on Fox.
Yes.
So write that down.
So let's see. I will take the first pick on this one.
Ooh.
Actually, you didn't give me the Sea Dragon and Defender pick for you.
I'm gonna lean on coaching for this one. I'm gonna pick Seattle only because of all these head coaches. Jim Zorn has probably the most experience at the NFL level.
You are wrong, sir, but that's okay. I forgive you.
I could be wrong. I mean, great coaching only goes so far if your squad is garbage, which we'll find out tomorrow.
Yeah, I really shouldn't have. I took down my my depth charts because I can't even remember who Seattle Dragons quarterback was. This is the problem with it being so new. I have no idea who anybody is.
Yeah,
except for obviously my DC Defenders.
But that'll all change within a couple of weeks because by then teams will start having their identity. We'll have an idea of who's hot and who's not. And this will be a way easier to track because there's only 8 teams.
Yeah, it's true. It will be. I'm going through. They got no quarterbacks. They got Colin Jeter at tight end. Like they got nobody. Coaching can only take you so far. You got Will Sutton. Good for you. I've got 2 quarterbacks who have been in the NFL. I've got AJ Tarpley. So yeah, we're good. I'm picking the Defenders. Like I said, I've made my prediction there. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take the lead on the next Saturday game, and you can take the lead on the 2 Sunday games. So We got the
Okay.
LA Wildcats versus the Houston Roughnecks, which pits Josh Johnson against Philip Walker and or Connor Cook, whoever they start. I have Philip on the lead of mine, so we'll just go with that. And
Yeah.
it is, I don't have where they're at, so I don't even know who the home team is on this one.
I believe the home teams are the ones on the bottom. So I believe Houston and DC are the home teams for Saturday.
Okay. So when it comes down to it, I think I'm just going to stick with the LA Wildcats, and strictly because I think that not knowing names of linemen,
Yep.
it comes down to quarterback play, I think, to start this off. And Josh Johnson has had, a glimmer of success. So I'm going to go there because I've never heard of the quarterback of the Roughnecks, old Philip Walker. So Sammy Coates is there. So you do, and Cam Phillips, I think, is another name I've heard of. So they got a little bit there. I think this one's going to be a lot closer, but I'm going to go with the Roughnecks.
I'll double check, but I don't think Houston's starting PJ Walker at quarterback. I think they're starting Connor Cook.
Yeah, they might. Like I said, I don't think that these were actually listed in order of starting, but
no, these are listed by jersey number.
They're just based off of. I imagine we might see both. That's a good possibility that you're going to see a lot of rotating just to figure out talent levels. Of course, they had to have practice, so they know better than we do. But I've actually picked both teams on this one, so I'm going to reiterate. I pick the LA Wildcats.
Yep. And I'm just to be contrary, I'm going to take the Houston Roughnecks. I'm just going to be different both times on those early on those Saturday games.
See, if Connor Cook is got some flash of talent with Sammy Coates and Cam Phillips, and then Coney Ely on defense, there's a good chance that you got a shot at this one over me. Like I'm doubting myself. But like I said, we're picking teams in the dark here. We're just kind of throwing darts at a board. So let's throw some more cliches out there, and then you could take the lead on the Vipers and the Guardians.
Yeah, this is all pure guesswork. Actually, let me real quick run through here because I'm trying to open up so many tabs right now, trying to keep track of all this.
Well, we got the Vipers have
Vipers going to New York.
All right.
So New York is our home squad. And a piece of me really wants to pick the Vipers, A, because of the green and gold. I've always liked that color scheme. But again, Mark Trestman also has some good experience coaching at the Pro League. And as we said, he crushed it in Canada. So who knows with this kind of a league? Maybe as long as it's not the actual NFL, he can have some success. And then in New York,
got McGloin.
Joe Horn Jr. from Missouri Western.
Tim Cook, who sounds familiar.
All 5'10", 182 pounds of Joe Horn.
And don't forget T.O. Tedding.
That's right. And AJ Hendy. Another AJ.
Hey, you can't go wrong with an AJ. Overall, no names that really stick out too much.
Yeah, I'm taking Tampa because of the coaching. I think Mark Trestman might have a better shot at being able to put something together with what he's working with.
Well, I think Mark Trestman, if he still is the offensive genius that he was touted in the NFL, along with Aaron Murray, who was pretty touted coming out of college, I think that that's where I'm going to put mine. I want to be contrary to you. I really do, just to have something so we could go and keep our picks and see who does better in the end. But I just can't see the Vipers not winning this one. They seem to have the talent. So that's my pick. I'm going to go with you with that. So,
and again, that's the early game on Sunday, also at 1 p.m. Central Time, noon Mountain. That one's on Fox. And then the later game on Sunday is on ESPN at 4 p.m. Central. And that is the St. Louis Battlehawks going to Dallas to fight the Renegades. Dallas, home of the assistant coach with the best name ever, Bobby Blizzard.
Oh, that's wonderful. Now, don't forget Dallas has Landry Jones.
Yes, they do. And I don't know which of these guys they're going to start at quarterback. They're both decently sized guys. Philip Nelson or Eric Dungy. I don't think that's not Dungy. It's Dungy. Like dung. Poor
Appreciate
guy.
you putting that out there.
All right. But for my Super Bowl pick for this game, with the team that I'm backing and knowing nothing about this roster, I'm going to say that not only does St. Louis win, they have 2 receivers go over 100 yards.
Ooh, and one of them will be Brandon Riley. That is a bold pick. I appreciate you doing that. Like you saw mine, and you didn't quite raise me, but you went with it. I like it. See, that's really big because
And one
this
of them
looks
is
like a
going to,
running team.
no, because one of these receivers that's going to go over a hundo for sure is LaDamian Washington from Missouri, 6'4", 216. That's a big boy to throw the ball to.
It is, and my question is one of these quarterbacks, because I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't start Taylor Heineke. Not that I know anything about him, but it sounds familiar. So let's.
Taylor Heineke, or I don't know. I mean, again, I haven't seen any of them. I would start the big fella, Nick Fitzgerald, at 6'5", 227 at Mississippi State.
Well, Taylor Heineke was undrafted, went to Minnesota, New England, Houston, Carolina. So, I mean, he didn't look like he ever played in any of those, but he had some good coaching in there, some good people to sit behind throughout the years. So that there is a chance that could be good. Now, who's the big fella you say? Nick Fitzgerald.
Quarterback? Yeah, Nick Fitzgerald.
Well, I'm going to figure out. He's 6'5", 227.
6'5", 227.
He's young.
Yeah.
He was undrafted in 19 to the Bucks.
But here's the two receivers I think are going to get their 100 yards. The first one was LaDamian Washington out of Missouri, 6'4", 216. And then the other guy is Carlton Agudosi, 6'6", 220 out of Rutgers.
All right. Well, just I want you to remember your prediction here because of all of these guys. Did LaDamian Washington, did he play in the NFL?
Let us do some crack research. This is the first time I heard the name, so if he did, it probably wasn't much.
Because I think that 6'1", 200-pound Brandon Riley is going to be the best receiver on that team.
Oh god, yeah, no. LaDamian Washington was on a lot of practice squads. He was never drafted. But he was signed to the Cowboys practice squad, the Niners practice squad, the Giants, the Browns, the Dolphins. And by the way, all 5 of those practice squads were all in 2014.
That is impressive. Wow.
And then the Steelers and the Chiefs practice squads in 2015. The practice squad for the Edmonton Eskimos, so that tells you something, in 2016. But then he was on the active roster for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers in 2017. Took a year off in 2018, played for the Birmingham Iron in 2019, and that brings him now to the Battlehawks this year.
Well, I appreciate you going big with your prediction, and ultimately, I think that you're going to have one receiver go over 100 yards, and it's going to be Brandon Riley, and I think you're going to have at least one running back go over 150. Which I believe will probably be Matt Jones, but Christine Michael sounds kind of familiar. So I was just going to do a little crack research on Christine Michael real quick.
That name does sound familiar. You're right.
Seattle. That's where we heard him. Let's see. He was second round draft pick in Seattle. So that is big. Oh, and he was on Green Bay in 2016. Let's see. He was claimed off of waivers, given a 1-year deal, and then he was released. Because you guys drafted 3 running backs. You're like, screw it. We're not even going to give him a chance. So he has a chance to be good.
I mean, yeah, his career numbers weren't terrible. He averaged over 4 yards a carry.
And the fact that, never mind. Oh, how did I miss this one? I'm looking through your running backs. I'm like, man, that name sounds kind of familiar. Keith Ford, undrafted into the Buffalo Bills in 2018. Let's see, he's cut and then promoted to the active roster when LaShawn McCoy got injured. 46 yards on 14 carries. He ran. So, I mean, I don't remember him being overall that great, but he was a Buffalo Bill. So at 5'10", 219, he's one of those bowling ball slamming in there type of guys. So I think that with two NFL names I remember, and I believe Matt Jones was another good running back in the NFL, at least fairly decent. I believe, because he was on the Redskins. So I think that you guys are going to just slam it. It's going to be run all day, every day.
I mean, that wouldn't hurt my feelings as long as they get the W. And if they could put something together early and really get that identity, that'd be fine. But yeah, for my big other pick, I think those two receivers, those twin towers, are going to go for 100 each.
Well, I look forward to seeing what happens because I'm going to counter. I'm also going to pick. I was going to pick the Dallas Renegades because of their quarterbacking with Landry Jones. But I don't see any wide receiver that really flows. And then you guys have Brandon Riley, so he'll get 100 in receiving. And then I'm going to counter your bold, and I'm going to say Christine Michael, Matt Jones, and Keith Ford all go over 100 in rushing.
Oh wow, that'd be impressive. Regardless of what level you're playing at, if all three of your running backs go over 100 yards, that's Madden territory.
Well, the only thing is I think is extremely possible given the league and consider their experience. The only reason it probably won't is because if Christine Michael runs for 100 and quick enough time to allow two other running backs to rush for 100, do you think they're going to pull Christine Michael out? No, he's going to end up with 300 instead of the other ones ended up with 100 each. So probably not going to happen just because of those logistics. But if given the chance, that's still my prediction for these Battlehawks. You're going to have 100-yard receiver and Brandon Riley and 300-yard rushers.
I just hope that Damian Washington becomes their big receiver because he's a Missouri boy. He went to the University of Missouri.
Did you say he was 6'6"?
No, he's 6'4".
Oh, 6'4". And so that means on Broadway, Carlton. Hey, that's that Carlton that we were talking about.
Yeah.
On the roster, he had one name at the time. Is he 6'6" then?
Oh, where'd he go? Let me find it. No, our 6'6" receiver. Yeah, Carlton Agudosi. Yeah, 6'6".
Oh, so Carlton. I would like to see someone like that really ball out because that's one thing that Buffalo needs, and that's ultimately what I'm watching everything for is like, oh man, can he go to Buffalo? Because Buffalo needs, we got a bunch of everybody we have is I think our tallest receiver is 6 foot maybe. So we need to have a couple of big downfield receivers that we can just toss it up to and say, hey, stand there and catch this ball. And that's what Carlton Agudosi can do for you. So I look forward to seeing that. And I don't know about you, but I think that we might have to sit down to watch these if I have some stuff to do with the family. But if I have the time to sit down and watch this DC Defenders live, we might have to just get on the phone and discuss what we're seeing.
Oh, for sure. And then another note, because I was just running through the roster one last time for St. Louis. I think they're going to be hard to throw against because they have a tall defensive backfield.
You really like height. You're a height guy, aren't you?
In the passing game, yes, absolutely.
You're a heightist. I find that a lot of the good...
That's what made the Legion of Boom so good. They were just so big, you couldn't just toss it over their heads.
It's true. That is handy. I think that it just depends how you match up. Sometimes speed can outdo height. If you just look at what John Brown did this year at the Bills, all it takes is a little bit of separation. You can throw over height, and it's hard for them to run with some of these speedy receivers. So
it can, but I think with length like that, it at least reduces the chance of the big play. They'll have to just march on you.
Well, don't you guys also have Will Hill?
Yes, they do.
A strong safety there. I believe he was a name. I want to say it was the Saints, but I could be wrong. Will Hill was a name. Oh, Ravens. I think he was a big story with the Ravens when he come out.
And the Giants.
There was something about him that he was going to be good, and something happened. So, drug test failed drug test. So again, that's another one that could be pretty good. So ultimately, that's why I am going with the Battlehawks. I look forward to our bold predictions being coming down. You got your Twin Towers going over 100 each. That's your lockdown prediction of the week. My lockdown prediction was Cardell going for over 300 passing with another 50 or 60 rushing and 4 touchdowns, I believe.
Yep, that was the number 4.
That's my lockdown prediction. My fantasy prediction, as in it would be a fantasy because logistically it can't happen, is the St. Louis Battlehawks trio of running backs all go over 100 with Brandon Riley get his 100 receiving. Do you have a fantasy prediction for anybody? Yeah, maybe a team goes over 80 points. I don't know. Do you have one?
Oh, that'd be a fun game to watch if any of these guys goes over that much. No, my fantasy one is that this Battlehawks defense generates 3 interceptions.
Nice. Okay, well, I definitely look forward to this. So we got you and I differing, as in you going for the Sea Dragons. I'll go for the Defenders. I believe I am going for the Wildcats, and you're going for the Roughnecks.
Yep.
And then we both got the Vipers, and we both got the Battlehawks.
Yep. Sorry about the Blizzard.
So you look forward to me being 4-0, our first weekend XFL predictions?
No, I look forward to you being 2-2.
I do want to state that Matthew and I haven't been friends for as long as we have been. In years past, have done picks in the NFL together, and he has handedly beat me many years in a row.
But that's also the NFL where we know that. Those teams are established. We know all those guys. This is fresh out the box.
I do also want to say that in those years that he gave it to me handedly, they were not the Buffalo Bills team. And then he will tell you every week I pick Buffalo to win regardless.
Yeah.
So that gives somebody like 10, 11 games every year.
Well, except for this past year. This past year, you'd have been right more than you would have been wrong.
It's true. I would have been, which is good. And just watch us next year. We're gonna. I think we're gonna win the AFC East. I believe we will. We may not win the Super Bowl, but we are going to be contenders. We're going to be watched. So I look forward to this. I look forward to the XFL, and I look forward to having a good lead over you, being 4-0 to year 2-2.
I mean, if that's the start, that's whatever. I can't get mad at being wrong on 2 games with all these teams that we collectively know nearly nothing about. I wouldn't be mad about that.
Well, I wouldn't really be mad either because, like I said, this is the first. We're just figuring it out, and who knows what this will become. And I look forward to taking this ride with you here on Up the Gut.
That's right, and I look forward to week 5 when it's the first week that our squads play against each other.
We'll have a little bit more understanding. I'm not looking forward to facing that trio of running backs, but I think ultimately with AJ Tarpley back there, we'll be all right. We'll handle that one pretty easy.
Yeah, but no. Here's to a fun year.
I'm looking forward to it. And I'm looking forward to continuing this podcast with you. And I hope everybody is enjoying listening to it as much as we're enjoying recording it. It's probably going to be too long. Everything's too long. So hopefully there's enough to keep you guys occupied. But you wouldn't believe it until you do it. But a podcast, you can go an hour and 38 minutes and it feels like it went 5. So this has been fun.
Absolutely. But we'll be back recording next Friday. Take a look at how week 1 went. Take a look at how week 2 is going to go. And hopefully I'll win all these picks and have some sort of victory this season.
Yeah, we probably had to come up with a bet that we have for the final tally. And we'll have something fun, a little make it a little more competitive. But thank you everybody for listening. This is Up the Gut, the first, best, and most impressive XFL podcast that I've ever heard of.
That's right. Tell your mom about us.